one of the best, most impactful compliments I've ever received. And since I first received it, I've gotten it from more than one person. But the first time that I heard it from someone, my friend Mark. Now, I've been doing this YouTube thing and the podcast thing and putting out content, just basically whatever I want to talk about, for years. It started off as me talking about fitness and my fitness endeavors, and tips and tricks and stuff like that. And then it evolved into just me talking about the stuff I was interested in: pop culture, comic books, movies, politics, everything. Okay? And it's kind of evolved into that. And a couple of years ago, I put out a YouTube video, and it didn't get very many views, but it was a story, a personal story, something that happened to me in like my teenage life. Okay, and then I sort of liked how that went, so I put out a few more different things that I thought were funny or interesting that happened to me, that involved doing stupid things as a kid, stuff like that. And my friend Mark, he says to me, after watching one of these videos, listening to one of these stories, he says, "You're an awesome storyteller." He's like, "I love to listen to you tell a story. Feels like I'm there." That was huge for me, especially at a time where I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I just knew that I was talking and I was putting out content and I was expressing myself in a way, right? I was expressing myself through oration. I'm telling things about me or things that happened to me or life experiences that led to, tips and tricks and hacks and what have you. But when he said that, it was the first time that I realized that that is what I am. I'm a storyteller. I'm someone who tells stories. And I don't know necessarily that I'm amazing at it, but I feel like I have an ability to put things into words. And I was a writer in high school. I was in Exemplary Writers, and I won some contests. Like I always enjoyed putting pen to paper and telling stories. And when the world kind of changed with the internet and we ended up able to tell stories via video to the whole world, or podcast even, it opened up a whole new medium for telling these stories, right? You didn't just have to write it down. So I've gotten away from actually putting pen to paper or, typing something up, a story that I want to tell. I've mostly been word of mouth. I've been telling stories, oral tradition style, like it was before there was the written language. And because that sparked something in me when he said that. When he said, "Man, you're an awesome storyteller," it made me realize that, hey, I think that's my kind of knack, if I have one. If I have one at all, it's storytelling. It's putting something into words for other people to digest. And like I said, I've gotten away from writing because of this. But after Mark said that to me and totally just like changed, it hit a switch in me. It made me think, like, it made me see myself differently. It really did. It made me see myself like, wow, okay, yeah, that is what I'm doing. And that was the biggest compliment. Like, when I really thought about it, I'm like, wow, he enjoys hearing what I have to say, He enjoys the way I tell a story, and it unfolds in his mind in a way that he enjoys. And man, that's all I've ever wanted to do with when I'm sharing these stories, is have someone hear the story and go, ah, to follow along in their mind with this story and enjoy it. So yeah, thank you, Mark, because now I have fully realized over the past couple of years that when I really boil it down, what I do when I'm making these videos, when I'm writing a script for a video or a podcast, when I'm just speaking off the cuff, I'm storytelling. I'm telling stories. And it had always been a dream of mine to write a book. Like, my entire life, I've always said, someday I'm going to write a book. Someday. And I think this is probably a common dream for people to write a book of some sort. I know, I'm not the only one here. A lot of people think this way. And most people never do it. Never do it. And I was very, I was for sure heading down that path of never doing it. But one thing I like to use this channel and my podcast for is to hold myself accountable. So if there's something I want to do, I like to put it, much like my stories, I like to put it down for other people to consume. It holds me accountable. If I say I'm going to do something, then other people, whether they say it or not, are going to wonder, I wonder if he ever did that, I wonder if he stuck to that, And so that's one reason I do it. I share it with others, sometimes even if it's just a plan for my life. So, with that, over the next couple years, after Mark said that to me, I had another one of my friends say it. And these things are out of the blue. I never said, hey, do you think this is a good story? I never said, hey man, what do you think of my storytelling ability? I never asked for this. This was freely given. And that's what meant so much about it. They had no reason or obligation to reach out and tell me that. And so Mark said that. A couple years later, another one of my friends said that. And just recently, my friend Jesse, that I do the Long Lost Brothers podcast with, said the same thing. He's like, man, I love to listen to you tell me about anything, because the way you tell it, the way you lay out the intricate facts of the story, the details. He said, I love the way your mind works, because when I hear you telling a story, I can picture it in my head. You can tell me about a movie and I feel like I've seen it. And I'm like, wow, this is, all of this is just confirming what other people have said. Yeah, that I guess that would make you a good storyteller. You're detail oriented, and they can actually picture what you're saying as you say it. So with that, I've had several different friends and never asked them for their opinion on this, but they offered it freely. And it has led me to this decision. Not only am I going to continue telling stories on podcasts and, in the oral tradition, but I'm going to write that book. I'm going to write a book. And for years I've been saying I'm going to write a book. And I never knew what it was going to be. Of course, obviously I put myself out there all the time to entertain people. I'm a bit egotistical. It's a fact. It's part of my personality. So of course, I always imagined that I would write a memoir, an autobiography, about my life, but, it never seemed like I'd accomplished anything big enough to write about, who's going to read my autobiography? I haven't accomplished anything big enough. And then I thought, maybe I'll write a screenplay. Maybe I'll write, a television show. Maybe I'll write a comic book script. Maybe I'll write, I didn't know what I wanted to write, but I know I want to put my name on something and have it be a labor of love, and at the end have it be a finished product that if I hadn't done it, this thing would not exist in the world. And so I've decided what I want that to be. I've been looking for something that's just important enough, something that I felt passionately enough about and something that I knew well enough, because they say you should write what you know, and that goes with anything. That goes with writing a novel, writing a script, writing a memoir, writing someone else's biography. Like, you should write what your experience tells you about things, things that you're familiar with, things that you've studied, things that you're well versed in. And I've always been good at putting into words old stories from my life and remembering them pretty clearly, remembering the details of them. And my cousin Chris, who is one of my best friends in the world, was like a brother to me. We were raised a good portion of our lives together, went through a lot of hell together, but also had a lot of crazy, crazy fun together, from our teenage years up into our 20s. And we have a lot of stories. And Chris passed away last year, and it got me thinking about all these stories, right? I've been thinking about pretty constantly for the past year and a half since his passing, thinking about these stories, just imagining them in my mind and remembering Chris in that way. And I want to write a book of short stories of just the adventures, the experiences that Chris and I had together. Like, what better? What better than to, like, remember Chris in that way, and also just make sure that I never forget these stories of someone that meant so much to me. Because I can already feel a lot of these stories fading. I forget little details that someone else reminds me of. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I forgot that. So as much as it is for other people to read and experience, it's for me. I want to have it on record so that I never forget, so that I can go back and laugh about those stories or smile because I'm remembering them as I read them, because I'm not going to remember them forever, at least not in the detail that I do now. And I also think the people who knew Chris touched a lot of people. Like, if you ever met Chris, you remembered Chris. He wasn't the type of person that you met once and then forgot you ever knew him. He's the type of person that was just zany enough, just wild enough, just crazy enough, that it stuck out in your memory. Like, if you saw him again, you'd be like, I know you. I know that guy. I remember that guy. A lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people, even me, for instance, someone met me, they don't necessarily remember me later on. But Chris, he was a unique individual. And I feel like the many people that knew Chris, that loved Chris, that were either friends with him or part of his family, or served with him in the military, I think they would also enjoy these stories, that I'm sure they've never heard. Just wild stories that I'm sure when they read, they'll say, I 100% believe that crazy story about Chris, because it sounds right out of, what would be the history of Christopher DePriest. So, man, what better than to remember him that way and write about something I know. You're supposed to, like I said, write what you know. And I know the adventures that Chris and I had. So that's it. This whole video, all this roundabout talking was just to say that I am writing a book. I want to put it out there so that I will be held accountable, and I want to finish it by the end of next year, by the end of 2021. And I can't guarantee that because, creative works, you never know. You never know when they're going to be really ready. But the goal is, I think I can accomplish getting it done next year. I'm going to put it on my 2021 goals list to write this book. And man, I hope that when I get it done, other people will enjoy what I've written. That's the idea. But even if they don't, I will be satisfied with knowing I put pen to paper and actually finish this work that means something to me. Not just a random story or script or something that's fictional, but something that actually means something to me. That, if nothing else, it will live on like a journal entry for me about some of the greatest experiences of my life with my best friend. So, anyway, that's it. that's it. I just wanted to put it out there that I will be doing this and hold myself accountable. So be on the lookout about a year from now for me to be finishing up the Chronicles of Chris and Brett, or whatever I decided to call it. Yeah. So if you enjoy videos like this where I just kind of talk about whatever I want, sometimes it's, most of the time, it's entertainment and pop culture. But every once in a while, it's just stories from my questionable youth. I will be telling some of the stories from this book that I plan to write. Before the book ever comes out, I will be telling some of these stories on this channel. I think it's a good way to practice the storytelling and to get it out so that I can go back and look at it and go, oh yeah, I forgot that detail. But also, I think it's fun stories to share. So I will be sharing some of those as stories on this channel before the book comes out, and then yeah. But if you enjoy that, where I talk about stories from my questionable youth, or I talk about entertainment, pop culture, politics, stuff like that, I pick a random topic every day to speak on. You can either follow me here on YouTube or here on the podcast, on any podcasting app that you have. I'm probably there. Just search for Daily BS or search for Brett Scott, and you should find me. But if you're interested in that, subscribe for more, follow, favorite, whatever it is you do. And if you decide to follow along, then I will talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks.